A team from the Isle of Wight Zoo, which rescues big cats, has arrived in Miami, Florida. They're here to bring male tiger Rambo back to the UK, but they have to wait 24 hours, so before they can collect the 11-year-old, they've headed north to see the work of Big Cat Rescue in Tampa. It's the world's largest sanctuary for rescued big cats.
The latest statistics are that there's more tigers in Florida and Texas than there are left in the wild. I mean, not only is that horribly sad, it's just how do you regulate that? How do you regulate these thousands of animals? And it's not just tigers, you know, it's also lions and cougars and leopards. The problem stems from the lack of a federal law that covers the entire country. Even if you do have strict laws in one state, it's very easy to drive to a neighboring state which may have laxer laws or no laws at all. So what we really need is a federal law that will encompass the entire country. And another big problem is the fact that there's an industry. These animals are only valuable for a very short time, and that's when they're young. That's when it's still safe to let people interact with them, get their photo taken, you know, possibly pet them, hold them. That's the only time they have any real value. So, and you're talking about an animal that would live 20 years in captivity, and the lifespan that they're useful is less than a year. So it's really an industry that has a high turnover. You've got to produce a high volume of animals to feed the industry.
This 45-acre sanctuary is home to 150 wild cats of 18 different species. The cats are confiscated from unusual situations all over the US.
We have the white tigress Zabu, and she came from a zoo that went out of business, and she does live with a male lion. And they were raised together. You know, you could speculate maybe they were going to try to make white ligers. A lot of places do try to crossbreed the two, and that is possible. When you're talking about genetics and saving these animals, that's just a ridiculous thing to do. But they're here. Cameron has had a vasectomy and Zabu has been spayed, so we have no chance of any ligers at Big Cat Rescue. But they do get along kind of well, which is sort of amazing because the tigers are solitary animals, and then when you have the lions that live in the prides and the big groups, they're sort of social, but they figure it out. I think they don't speak quite the same language some days, but they, for the most part, they get along very well.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. We bought the British medicine.
You did, it's nice and rainy.
It's great.
Charlotte and Greg's work in the UK is similar to the work done here at Big Cat Rescue.
They're at the hardcore end of things here in the States, rescuing cats from, you know, literally seconds away from being euthanized because they've been kept as pets. You know, and these guys are working religiously to try and take in as many cats as they possibly can. And a similar situation to ours, obviously we're all trying to help in a very messed up world basically, and educationally as well, to get the message across to people. That's what these guys are doing here, and yeah, just interesting to see how that corresponds to the work that we do really.
This week, Big Cat Rescue collected 4 new cats who've retired from a life as performers. The 2 lions and 2 tigers have all arrived with problems.
2 of these cats actually have collars on them, but these collars are too tight, and probably they were much younger when they were put on. So it's going to be a challenge for us to get these collars off. It's on the 2 cats that are the most afraid and probably the most difficult to get close to. So we don't want to just sedate them. We don't know their exact health and that sort of thing. So it's going to be a challenge to get close enough to be able to cut these collars off or get them off. We don't know how embedded they might be, but when you see the lioness, you can see how tight that collar actually is.
Many of the cats that arrive here are also overweight.
Of course, living in a domestic situation where the area is a lot smaller, the exercise is different and the diet is different because people don't generally have much of a clue on what to feed them when they're living indoors. So a lot of them are, you know, a little bit more weighty than what we have, and also living in domestic situations, they have been declawed as well. So to make that safe for the people. So again, they can't exercise quite as much.
The team will now begin their journey south to rescue Rambo and take him back to the tiger sanctuary in England. The big cat care team back on the Isle of Wight are on another mission. Just like domestic cats, tigers suffer from arthritis, and the older they are, the more of an issue it can become.
The thing is, for us at the zoo, it is common because we have a lot of elderly cats, so it does affect a large proportion of our population. But I think generally with any cat, be it lions or tigers, eventually they will get arthritis, so it's not a species specific. And as it is for us at the zoo, we've got 18 tigers, so we have a bit much bigger population, so we tend to think, well, wow, we've got a real problem here. But as it is, it mainly affects our elderly cats at the end of the day.
The oldest cat here is 15-year-old male Saga. And today the keepers are beginning a care programme for his arthritis.
OK, first one there then, Paul. We're going to be putting some matting down, and it's basically going to be cushioning him when he sits in the night room. So it goes underneath his hay, so it acts like a bit of a springy surface for him.
2 months ago, Saga was sedated for a medical examination. He was struggling with his mobility, and tests revealed advanced arthritis. Saga was given food supplements to keep his joints supple, but he hasn't improved, so the decision's been made to put him on some stronger medication.
Ian, the vet's going to be darting him very shortly as well, just with a little bit of cartilage regeneration medicine. It's quite a new experimental thing. So when he has that done as well, it's all going to go as part of a big sort of overall care package for him, basically. A really extra comfy bed, as well as cartilage regeneration, which we're going to be doing on a weekly basis for him until things drastically improve.
Saga will get 4 of these injections, which should begin to repair the cartilage damage caused by the arthritis.
He does still clearly struggle, you know, particularly on cold, damp days. But on the other hand, he's not totally crippled. He's still mobile. He's still getting enjoyment from life. We just want to make sure that we keep that enjoyment at as high a level as possible for as long as possible.
This is basically, I think, it's just a trial at this stage to see how it's going to work with him, how it's going to affect him and if it works, there's a good chance we're going to try it with the other cats that have got arthritis and see how it progresses from there.
More than 4,000 miles away from the zoo in Florida, Charlotte and Greg have finally arrived to meet male tiger Rambo.
Rambo, come on then.
The 11-year-old was rescued from a circus. He was bought by a British woman so she could ensure a more appropriate place for him to live in his retirement.
Hey, boy.
Rambo's new home will be the Isle of Wight Zoo, but in the meantime, he's had temporary refuge in South Florida. It's taken almost 18 months to organise Rambo's trip to the UK, so Charlotte is pleased to finally meet him.
Say hello. Rambo. Hey, we've come a long way to see you. Come on, boy. He's not actually quite as big as I thought he'd be, but he's a nice, friendly cat, coming up and chuffing, and seems quite relaxed. Obviously, he doesn't know what's about to happen. He appears to be in good health.
The man who looks after Rambo and the other big cats here has very limited resources. Both he and Rambo's owner don't want to be interviewed.
He has done his best. It's in a prime spot for hurricanes, and he was hit badly 2 years ago, and the funding isn't there. Government funding, it's not open to the public, so he's doing his best, but there could be a lot more done for these animals, really. And there's a lot of big cats here in areas which are really, really unsuitable, and the quality of life is pretty appalling, I imagine, for them. So it's a relief to move one out, but there are many more. It's a pity you can't help them all, really.
But there's a problem which could stop Rambo's move.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
The team discovers that Rambo's transportation box has not been made to meet strict guidelines. Unless changes are made, Rambo isn't going anywhere.
It's supposed to have guillotine doors at both ends, not hinges, at both ends. That's the regulations, I'm afraid.
It's not just about, making sure that all the air transport regulations are fulfilled and CITES regulations, but obviously it's got to be, for us, practically manageable when we get back to the zoo, which is why we also attach certain directives that said it needs to be, built in a certain way so that we can actually get the cat safely to where it needs to be when we get back to our facility as well. Obviously, the clock's ticking in terms of what we can actually do in modifying these areas that are not quite suitable for what we'd like to see.
I've got guidelines, it's my name that goes to court. So unless it's how we want it to be, this won't be going. Simple.
In Florida, the team from the Isle of Wight Zoo is facing problems with Tiger Rambo's transport box. It hasn't been built safely enough for his 20-hour journey to England.
I could do it, but it's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning before it's done. I tell you that right now. Because that side, I didn't even cut the wood out. The door is there.
Yeah.
You can cut it out with a jigsaw when you get there.
The man who's been looking after Rambo does not want to be interviewed. And he's reluctant to make the changes because he thinks that the box does follow US guidelines. The problem is, he isn't considering British regulations.
This wouldn't get me from Chester back to the Isle of Wight without someone nicking us for it. And that might be why there's a problem over here with cats being kept by people in their back garden because the laws are so slack, whereas we don't have that because they're not. And that's the difference, I think. You've got this sort of thing going on and, that sort of behaviour I'm not really into, to be honest. I've come here to do, to help out and do a favour. I'm not really into this. I don't need this sort of I've just bloody flown here, for a 2-day trip to bring him back, not have a lecture on what I'm doing.
Normally, Rambo would be darted just once with sedative to get him safely into his travel box. Then he'd be released at the end of the journey through the box's sliding door. But his temporary carer is suggesting that he should be darted a second time when he arrives at the Isle of Wight Zoo and then carried into his enclosure. But too much sedative is dangerous, and Greg and Charlotte aren't happy.
You got enough drug to knock his ass out 4 more times afterwards because this is high potency. I spent $860 on this drugs.
Yeah, we've got drugs. It's just I wanted to avoid having to knock him out again after the journey.
That's the easiest part. Right after he gets there, you knock his ass out. When he wakes up, he's in a new enclosure.
I'm not listening to that.
But the CITES shows guillotine.
As long as you keep on and don't do what we want, then it won't be moving from this spot.
I would feel happier if we went ahead and tried to achieve what we could achieve on the different door mechanism, and then if there was a real issue with darting him and moving him the other end, we don't know what state he's going to be in when he gets back after his travelling, and it might be that the vet would say that he's not happy to do that. That shows the solid on the outside.
After some persuasion, things begin to look a little bit more positive.
Yeah. The latest is they're rushing down to the hardware store because that's just about to close. But the door where I wanted it originally, when he started being a bit awkward about it, he's now going to make. So it can go right into the bedroom. So we've been all around the houses in the last hour, but we're now back to where we wanted it to be in the first place, and he can now do it. Okay? Everyone's getting on at the moment. So.
It's now a race against time to get Rambo's box ready. Back at the Isle of Wight Zoo, Keeper Helen has got a special treat for one of the tigresses. A feeder log. The wood has been drilled with holes and then filled with meat. The fire hose wrapped around it will give the big cat a good workout as she grips onto it whilst attacking the log. Last week, 10-year-old Lola moved home across the park. She was living in a quieter area of the zoo because when she first arrived from a circus, she was a very nervous cat. This is her first time in her new outside enclosure. There's lots to explore, but it's the feeder log that catches Lola's eye. When the other cats do this exercise, they tend to attack the log from below and try to pull it down. But Lola begins working out a different approach. So eventually, the log will remain completely in her grasp. Some meat falls out on the way, but she claims the main prize all for herself. In the wild, when a tiger makes a kill, it drags its prey away somewhere quiet. They eat as much as they want, sometimes bury it, and then return later when they're hungry again. Lola wants to drag off her prize, but she can't work out that the log is tethered at the top of the platform. The tigress is getting an excellent workout. She's had constant tension on her muscles and used dynamic force to lift the log. Big cats expend energy in short, sharp bursts, and this is what keeps them in top physical condition. And all the while, Lola has just one thing on her mind: taking the log off to her patch. But all of this brute force is not helping Lola drag off that prize.
Probably a primate would have traced the rope back, the thing that's preventing it, and maybe tried to attack the rope, or maybe trying to get the knot undone or something. But the tiger just didn't think in that sort of way. So that's very clear. It's a very good demonstration of how the tiger's brain works. They're mainly mobile battering rams that do everything with brute force. They are highly dexterous and very delicate when they need to be, but quite often the way they solve problems can be very different from other species, and even between the individual cats.
Lola has worked hard at this enrichment exercise, so it's only fair to help her out. The keepers put her back in her night den so they can go in and untie the log. And as expected, the tigress soon makes off with what's rightfully hers. Back in Florida, and 6 hours of modifications have finally made Rambo's travelling box suitable for the journey back to England. Whilst he's still in his enclosure, he needs to be darted with sedative so he can be moved safely out into the box. But now it's dark. This is not going to be easy.
Maybe if we all move away from this corner, he might come to this corner and then... Come on, Rambo. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. Come on.
Hold the light on the cat. I can't see it.
Rambo. Good boy.
I missed him. Yeah.
The first shot missed, so a second dart is quickly prepared before Rambo becomes too agitated.
Rambolito, I'm coming again. It's all yours. Come on, baby.
You got it?
Just keep it up here. Hold it up. Yeah, hold it up. I go slow.
1, 2, 3.
Need another hand.
Good. All right. Doc, reverse.
Make sure that side door's locked. Yeah, all doors locked.
Rambo is given an injection to reverse the sedative, but he may be sleepy for some time, and this should keep him calm as he's loaded into the transport van.
It's in the early hours of the morning, about 3:30 in the morning, 6-hour drive ahead, but he's set off, so we're just about to head off too. The whole process has taken a ridiculous amount of time. You know, we've got it done, but really it could have been a lot smoother.
Rambo finally begins his 20-hour journey to England.